Hello, and welcome to the Childfree and Childless Alliance panel. I'm Cody. I'll be one of your co-moderators today.
And I am LeNora, the other co-moderator for today.
Thank you to our sponsors. We have our presenting sponsor, Childfree Media, our champion level sponsor, Childfree Wealth. 365 Diversity is another sponsor, along with Best Childfree Life Possible, found on the Facebook groups. Buy Childfree for merchandise, Childfree Family, Childfree Journals, StopHavingKids.org, StreamYard, and two novels, The Age of the Child by Kristen Tsetsi and Wild Egg by Jennifer Flint.
And our disclaimer, the opinions expressed within the content are solely the speakers and do not reflect the opinions and beliefs of the event or its affiliates.
All right, now that that's out of the way, let's pull some speakers up here.
Denise.
All right, welcome. All right, so we will just kick it off real easy. Let's tell us about yourself, and we'll start at the top. Denise.
Hello, my name is Denise Felkin. I'm happily child-free. I'm 54 and I'm an independent photographer from Brighton, UK. I have a history of photographing disenfranchised people, and 7 years ago I decided to document the childless and child-free movement. I share my work in the photography world, the art world, and newspapers as well. I've exhibited in the UK and Europe, and I'm working towards getting my work over to the USA. I'm the author and photographer of the book Mum's Not the Word, and over a period of 4 years, I photographed 50 women positioned in the fetal position from my studio where I am now. And I'm currently shooting Dad's Not the Word, but I'm still only at 10 with that. And I'm also working on a new child-free series.
All right. That sounds exciting. Thank you. Sharhonda, you're muted at the moment. There you go.
Hello there. I am Sharhonda Ford. I am a speaker, author, counselor, and coach. I became a part of the Childless movement, not by choice. Started about 16 years ago. I am also the author of Chasing Rainbows, a book about my personal journey with infertility, and podcast host of That Infertility Chick, which is also a podcast where I invite women to share their voice and talk about their journey. I own a group therapy practice, and I help women to amplify their voice who've suffered in silence through trauma. So I am excited about the journey. I talk about it. I always say I am childless at this time, but I never know what the future holds. And so I'm here to hold space for women who are uncertain of their journey and to support them and advocate them for whatever decision they make.
Awesome. And Christine.
Hi, I'm Christine Erickson, and I'm from the United States. I'm based in Central California, and I identify my journey as childless by circumstance. However, as we'll get into this conversation, I'm at a place of acceptance, and also based on the work that I do, I'm rethinking all these terms, and it's sort of how I self-identify at the same time. I'm a leadership coach, an executive coach, and leadership advisor in my other work. And on the side, I do advocacy, policy advocacy, and DEIB work for the childless, child-free community.
Excellent. Liliana?
Yes, I am Liliana Vercellotti. I'm from Italy, born and raised. I lived in different countries for the past 20 years. I'm an expat. I currently live in Quebec City, Canada. I was working in the nonprofit sector for about 15 years, and then I switched to executive coaching first. And now I coach women that are going through a transition in their life, and especially the ones that are child-free by circumstances. I define myself as child-free by circumstances. It took me about 10 years to get to this point. So I feel very happy to have gotten to the point where I am now. So thank you.
Thank you. And Jobi.
Hello, my name is Jobi Tyson, and I am the founder of Tudum Global, a wellness platform for involuntarily childless women. I am also the publisher of Tudum Journal, a magazine, a quarterly magazine for childless women, and a podcast host of 2 podcasts, As Told by Childless Women and Tudum Talks. And I am a sociocultural and anthropologist and I do studies on involuntary childlessness, female childlessness, infertility, and hidden links to infertility. And I'm really happy to be here. I'm also a wellness coach that focuses on cognitive behavioral therapy. And I'm happy to be here, and thanks for having me.
Thank you.
So what similarities do you see between the child-free and the childless communities? Denise, we'll start with you.
We share the same stigma and ask the same intrusive questions. For example, why do you not have children? I always open the chat free, but some people it's hidden, and they don't really like revealing that. We do have a connection, and I felt this when I was doing my projects, Mum's Not the Word, which is also a photo book. And I'd kind of get people coming down to Brighton to be photographed that were complete strangers, but we always found, even with the childless, child-free, there was always this instant connection. And I think this is because I was offering a safe space to be represented in a society that ignores and stigmatizes. Several women from both sides of the fence have said afterwards they felt empowered after a photo shoot with me. I know childless women who have kind of come to accept their childless status and now it's child-free, or I know and I've worked with, and also are referred qualified proportions. And then they're okay being like being child-free. But we're on the other end of the spectrum. Child-free, to my participants, said they regret not having grandchildren, so that puts them back into being childless.
Interesting. I want to revisit the grandchild section. Sharhonda, go ahead.
I think along the same line, there's a misunderstanding. I talk a lot about what not to say, what not to ask. That I think there's a misunderstanding of what it means to be child-free and what it means to be childless, and people don't understand even the involuntary circumstances of being childless or child-free. I feel that there's an ignorance of what else can you do, what have you done, what should you do to change the circumstance of being childless or child-free. And so I find that we run those parallels together, and just the pain and that silent suffering that comes along with that stigma, especially when there's an involuntary childlessness.
Christine, go ahead.
Yeah, I would echo what's been said already. And I think the greatest similarity is that, we've kind of gotten into these two camps of child-free and childless, and that both run the gamut of the full spectrum. So I think in that way, there's this collective similarity, if you will. And then I think from my perspective, when I look at policy or other spaces where we're impacted, that impact is the same regardless of how we came to not have children. And so I tend to look at that space a lot. Where are we not only alike, but how are we similarly impacted?
Liliana, go ahead.
Yeah, along with what Christine was saying, when I started my group on Facebook, which is Redefining Child-Free and Single, and I was single at that time, I wanted to combine the child-free women with the child-free by circumstances or the childless. And I don't think, to me, it matters necessarily the term. Like, I personally choose to say I'm child-free by circumstances, but I think it's important to acknowledge how we feel. And if you feel that you are childless by circumstances, it's fine to use that term. I think what brings us together is, like Christine was saying, we can be united in teaching people that we're normal human beings. And we talked about this in the convention and other panels, where we love, we care, we have maybe other type of family ties, we have friends, we take care of parents, or maybe we don't take care of anybody, and that's fine too. But I think it's important to normalize who we are, whether you say you're child-free, childless. I think it's really important to be together. Yeah.
And Jobi, go ahead.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
What are the similarities between that you've seen between the child-free and the childless communities?
Okay, well, I guess the obvious is neither have children, but both are often stigmatized in society and undermined by society's inability to separate womanhood and motherhood. And I always say motherhood does not equate womanhood. And so that's a big thing. And a lot of times, even with what I do, I interview women who are also childless or child-free by choice, because it's important for us to bridge the gap. And that's why I was interested in this panel, to bridge the gap between us and create conversations, because both of us are stigmatized in society and religion and family. And this is just something that we really need to normalize and talk about more, so it's not stigmatized as much, because I found that our silence can also perpetuate stigmas.
So, just individually, what is your definition of both childless and of child-free? And there's no wrong answer here. So, Denise, you go first.
Childless people, men, women, non-binary, can't have children but still want, have experienced infertility by themselves or their partner, gone through IVF unsuccessfully, are grieving the child that they've never had or miscarried, or are traumatized by their childless status. That's kind of the experience of all the people that I've met. And then in terms of the child-free, somebody who's made the choice not to have children, no regrets. That's how I see myself. And are creating through photography, art, music, gardening, making, etc. I feel the child-free are more relaxed. Some are so relaxed that I never even thought it was an issue not having children. Some might consciously decide not to have children for environmental reasons or had traumatic childhoods. The child-free have a strong dislike. Well, there is a group of them that have a really strong dislike to babies and people with children, and they're really, really militant about it. And I feel very comfortable around that. I feel that everybody has their choice, and we should, respect other people's choices. And then this childless have moved over to child-free after them finding acceptance, which I see that some of the panel have said that as well.
Yeah. And Sharhonda, what do you think?
I think it really depends on who's saying it. I think childless for me and within the community of women that I speak to are women who have maybe had experience with infertility, but also, or in addition to, have lost children. So infertility or miscarriage or stillbirth, a lot of times people struggle to say whether they should say Happy Mother's Day or whether they should acknowledge you as a mother. And I think for women who have lost children, they consider themselves childless because they no longer have that child that they carried or that they were expecting to bring to full term. And then for child-free, those seem to be more, in my experience, of women who choose that by choice, again, either environmentally or just have made decisions based on life circumstances or what they believe is best for them and their future, not to have children. And in addition to that, I hear people whose children are grown up and they're all out of the house who consider themselves, well, I'm child-free now, or they're sometimes people who have had children, but their children are no longer in the home. So I think that there is some gray area there with childless and child-free, but within the scope of the women that I'm speaking to more regularly, childless is people who've experienced loss or with that great desire to have children or to be a mother biologically, and that hasn't happened for them.
Okay. And Christine.
Yeah, so as we've created this sort of binary, I guess I have very short definition because and I love what Denise and Sharhonda have said because of that spectrum. And I think because these terms, in my perspective, came about because there was an invisibility and there were assumptions, right? And even among ourselves. And so then the question was not, do you have children, but why don't you? So then we simplified it with these terms of, I would say somebody who identifies as childless is somebody who wanted to have a child and wasn't able to, or lost a child. And somebody who is child-free, I would define as somebody who is making a clear choice not to have children, or who is in a different space of acceptance around not having children. I think sometimes your circumstances change. There are, as much as I grieved not having a child, there are many days that I'm like, thank God I'm not dealing with that. Or, whoa, what would that have been like? So I'm in some middle ground here. And I do think it's important to acknowledge all of those I think there are circumstances on both sides. So I think, again, back to the similarity, there's a full spectrum in both terms.
Yeah. And Liliana.
Well, what can I say? I think a lot of you already said a lot. When I think of childless, I remember making a video for my group, and I said, I associate that term with less. But that's, again, it depends on the feeling. If I feel like I never been married and I never been through IVF. So I think everybody's journey is different, and we have to respect that journey, and we have to be with, when I coach women, I'm with them at their level, at their journey. So for me to say I'm child-free by circumstances is okay. Now, if you ask me when I was 35, 36, 2 years after I was diagnosed with endometriosis, and I probably wouldn't even know what term to use, but I was grieving. So I think it's important that whoever we are with, whether it's a friend or a client, we respect where they are. And hopefully my goal is to, because I had health problem and I still have health problem, and I find life to be so precious, after 10 years of grieving and several ways to heal, I got to the point where I realized I know who I am. I know my self-worth, which, like Jody was saying, womanhood is not attached to motherhood necessarily. And yes, we see it in society, but we can change it. Just like, 100 years ago, as women, we couldn't vote. We didn't have the same platform that we have now. We are still working on rights of women. But I hope that in 100 years, we as women, whether we are child-free by circumstances, childless by circumstances, whatever term you want to use, that we are accepted in society, that we are not pity, whether it's in a religion organization or whether it's like you go to, we're not pity, we're not judge. We are just like, okay, she doesn't have children for whatever reason. And there's a respect attached to that.
I think that's a good point. And Jobi, how about you?
Well, okay, so just for context, childless would be a woman who cannot conceive or sustain a pregnancy, or circumstantial reasons for not having a child but wanted a child or children. And child-free would be someone who made the decision to not have a child. But because my platform is community-driven, I've seen that term change throughout the years. When I first started, it was childless or child-free. You didn't cross that. And now I did a survey before my first issue of Tudum Journal, and so I could call my readers what they wanted to be called, and 55%, even though my platform is involuntary childless women, 55% wanted to be called child-free. And 45% wanted to be called childless. So now I make a decision to just do childless / child-free, although all my social media handles is at childless women. So it's really objective now, and some reasons it made them feel more liberated to be called child-free. But at the end of the day, I really do feel that both are the same, one and the same,
That's an interesting statistic there. I never would have thought that.
And it's interesting to segue into this next question, because we've seen an energy around both terms. So there's an energy around childless and an energy around child-free. So I'm going to bring it to the context of this convention, for example. We're coming from it as from a child free by choice perspective. There's a celebration. There's a sense of happiness, joyfulness about not having kids, coming from a child free by choice perspective. How is that seen in the child free community, or sorry, in the childless community? Is that something that is resented? Is that a projection that maybe we have, that it might be resented because we are celebrating not having kids? What are your thoughts? Who wants to answer? Because I guess those who are childless identifying. I guess if we can get those answers first, and then everyone else can fill in. So
can I answer?
Go ahead, Liliana.
So the first time I met, most of my friends have kids, and I'm very lucky they don't judge me, or maybe they don't judge me in front of me. The first time I met a friend that was child-free by choice, I was jumping for joy. Like, I literally draw my jaw. I was like, what? It gave me strength. Now, having said that, when I started my group and I started to learn, about, okay, I don't have kids. I want to talk to people that don't have kids on social media. This was happening during the pandemic. I want to relate to people like me. And so I joined all sorts of groups, and then I created my own. It did hurt a little bit when I would hear a woman celebrating completely the fact that she didn't have kids. But then I started to understand that there needs to be a conversation, because we, like we said many times, we all confront society in similar way. And as far as the mindset, what I want to accomplish is that we feel good about whether it's our choice or whether, yes, we did not have kids. Like in my case, I wanted to have kids. I didn't go through, like, I don't consider myself like somebody that went through IVF many times and tried to conceive or had miscarriages. I have a lot of respect for them. I don't work with them because I'm not a therapist. And even as a coach, I don't feel I can support that. But I grieved too, as a single childless woman at that time, that kind of like missed the train type of thing. So I think it's important for me to say, okay, we unite as much as we can. We respect our diversity. And I feel comfortable now. And it's not easy, because some women, I only have 285 women, 84. To be honest, the conversation is not as alive as I want to, but both of them, both the one that are child-free and the one that are childless or child-free by circumstance, some of them, they do come into the platform and they respond. So not all of them, but some of them. And yeah, and for me, it's important that the one that feel bad about themselves, they get to the point where they accept their journey, because it's a life journey, and continue to develop themselves. Like, I don't feel any less. I used to, but not now.
Real quick, Liliana, congratulations on the membership number, because some people can't find one other person to talk to. So to have over 200,
it's hard.
It's commendable. So I think it's great.
And that's why I created the platform online, because it's like, we don't live in the 1900s. Sorry, I'll stop talking. I'm Italian. But, I mean, we are all together, and we can talk to people in Australia. I had wonderful conversation with Australian child-free by circumstances women. We are united as a world. So we have that advantage.
Sharhonda, did you want to?
Yeah.
I'm just based on movement. I'm picking people based on movement.
So unlike Liliana, I actually do work with women in that population, and so I think it was mentioned before that this suffering in silence. And so for me, I think what I learned is that there are seasons that there's this stigma going on for different women, especially who are childless. When you define childless by someone who has tried to have a child and then cannot. And as someone who is in that category, and also as a Christian, so faith-based, there's that stigma like that there's some defect, that there's something wrong with you. And so once I decided, it took me 13 years on this journey to amplify my voice and to give voice to the silence. And so, you know, you just mentioned you can't find one. When I mentioned it, people began to send me private messages about their story. And I realized that we had all been suffering in silence for over a decade. But I think it's meeting people where they are. I did used to have that judgment about like, man, you don't want any children, you can have children, you don't want any, and I, you know, would want some. And then I learned about my ignorance through the judgment and ignorance that I saw in others, because I could be at a fertility clinic and there could be a woman sitting there waiting to for a treatment, and she would have a child with me, and I'd be like, look, like, what you doing here? Like, hold up, save this for someone else who really needs it. But it taught me to adjust my lens and the judgment that I was having for other women. Like, we all have a desire to want what we want, and we shouldn't judge others for the place that they stand in. So if you're celebrating being child-free, it's because you have peace in that. Once I was able to have peace in the place that I was in, I was able to celebrate that. But that peace for me is transient. Sometimes I don't have it. And what I learned as a therapist and as someone who's been on this journey and who has done therapy on this is that there will be days when you're good and there'll be days when you want. And so it's important to continue the conversation, to hold the space for the people that need it, but also to be able to step back from that and say, hey, be confident and feel good about where you are, because your decision is just as important and valuable as mine. So that's where I've learned that from my initial lens of judgment of others. Celebrate with them because they have the right to choose what they want as well.
Thanks for sharing that.
Definitely.
Okay, I'm just gonna randomly pick people. Christine?
Okay. So I'm going to go directly to the question about the energies. Because it does exist. I mean, we all see it, and it's on social media, and there's this division that exists. And I think a lot to what Sharhonda said that I love so much is meeting people where they are and where we are on our journeys. And I think some of that comes from, you know, a very invisible community coming out to, you know, speaking our truths or sharing our stories, and then the fear of being invisible again, like being erased, you know. And I think that's where the child-free and childless terms, why we hold them so dear, is because they tell our stories and they don't erase us at an individual level, let alone the collective level. And so I think some of that feeling and fear it's not about someone else's choice not to have children. Like my envy is like, wow, I wish I could have been that clear. You know, like I love seeing that. And so I celebrate people that are childless by choice just as much as I do people that I relate directly to in my own experience. And I'm grateful to be at that point in my life and to have that. But I do think there are underlying things that speak to that energy. And I don't see it so much as a resentment as I do, you know, a sensitivity to where people are in their journeys and just it being so different. It's like just completely different ends of the spectrum. If you put a pin in child-free by choice and that clarity, and just not being able to understand why you couldn't have a child when you wanted one, right? So we're speaking to those pins sort of, and yet we've all mentioned this spectrum. And so I think even within this collective community, understanding the spectrum as well. And I think when there's more visibility and more acceptance societally, that those different stories will also shine as bright, and some things will dissipate because of that or become stronger because of that.
Thank you. Jobi, go ahead.
Well, a lot of the ladies have pretty much said what I was what I was thinking about. But just to piggyback on that, many women are going through different journeys, different stages of grief, of some are just finding out that they cannot have children. Some have can't afford IVF, literally can't afford to be infertile, you know, or some just found out, you know. So it's just pretty much like she said, meeting them where they are. And but then there's another, there's another all the way at the end where there's women who have thrived beyond childlessness. So let's not forget them, and they're in the same boat as what you're talking about now. So it's not monolithic as far as childless women, because there are different journeys and stages that they're in as far as dealing with it. So like me, it's over 20 years, so it's not as raw to me as it would be to someone that just found out that they can't have children. So I don't know, it's just the different triggers. Probably it's pretty much social media, because it's, you know, a lot of times people are around like-minded people. So a lot of times I don't know anyone personally, or I know one person that is childless by choice, who I'm a personal friend with, but she doesn't boast about it and, you know, talk about it much. So it's never been a conversation piece for me to be triggered by that. So I haven't had that experience. But talking to women around the world, you know, it's just different stages they're in, because there's a lot of women that I talk to who have thrived and are at that place that you speak of.
Thank you. And Denise, go ahead.
I found through, because I was photographing Childless and Childfree, and I've kind of got a lot of feedback from everybody in terms of this. So there's actually is a Childless and Childfree culture clash, where these two groups of people don't always integrate. And it's because, like, on the inside, the childless agree with the child they never had, whilst the Childfree are a combination of relaxed, empowered, or politicised. For example, the young 30-something climate strikers out there who declare they're not giving birth until something about the environment. But at the other end of the emotion scale, people are heartbroken about not having children. And then amongst all this, you've got the procreators, and they just don't get it. They're congratulating the childless for their light global footprint and calling the child-free selfish and baby haters.
That's very interesting. And so, do you ladies think that the terms child-free and childless will age well? Meaning, do you think that there'll be a necessary descriptor in the future? So we'll just start with Denise, if you want to start this one off.
Sorry, I haven't thought about this question yet. Bear with me. Yes, in the childless childfree communities, they kind of get it. 7 years on, in my project, I still have to explain it. I think slowly people are starting to understand the vocabulary. And that's probably because I start conversations like, you know, you're talking about what you're working on, and I tell them. So I kind of raise these conversations through my images. Regarding the rest of them, it's just a slow journey, but we're on the way, I think.
Yeah, Sharhonda, how about you?
I think with the changing in the generations, I think that there are going to be more people that want to be child free, and it will become like anything else that just takes root and grows. I think we're seeing a level of independence in younger people that I've never seen in my lifetime. So I don't know that there'll be so much ambiguity to it. I think that there's going to be this level of absolute certainty about what they want and definition, and they're going to run with it.
Okay, yeah. Christine, how about you?
Yeah, so you're speaking about both terms, right?
Yeah, both of them, yeah.
Yeah, I think I love what you just said, Sharhonda, and adding to that, I think that as we develop not only social, you know, beyond social assumptions and our visibility as a collective community, I think that when we're recognized in places, you know, where we're not now, like the workplace and in family policy, you know, when those things start to be inclusive as well, I think there'll be maybe less need for those. And it's okay if we still need them, you know, for our personal narratives or of a way of distinguishing that. But I would love to see, and I know it's slow, as we've all said, but where it's just, you know, people don't have children and they don't have to explain that. And if they want to, or they're in a place to share that story, they can identify it with what that journey was, rather than so much the label leading it with all these assumptions, or even why we're having this conversation today.
good points. Liliana.
Yeah, like Christine was saying, I'm not worried about the terms. I have to be honest, at the beginning, I said, oh, the childless term bothers me. It doesn't really matter. I think, like Christine was saying, once we unite and we continue, 10, 20, 50 years from now, I think as we continue the effort to be present and change policy and be normalized, everybody can keep their own term. They want to use whatever term they want to use, but it's important how we are portrayed, how we portray ourselves in society, and also the internal feeling that we have about ourselves. Like, I want my women to go from feeling depressed or that life is not good to them because they cannot have children, to the point where they accept to redefine themselves, because life continues in stages. And not just because, okay, now personally I'm 50, so I'm over. No. Even if I was 35, I want to be able to inspire women to say, okay, we grieve, we continue to grieve, but in the meantime, we also use that muscle of mindset to know that we are worthy of love, we are worthy of a wonderful life, even if we didn't have the opportunity, and I'm talking about the childless or the child-free by circumstances, to have children. You can still have a wonderful life. It took me a long time to get to this point. And maybe it's because I'm aging. So I think like, oh, I don't have a lot of time left. I don't know how much time I have, and I have health problems. I don't want a person to come to that realization like me. I hope that we can come to that realization through therapy, through some other means. You don't have to be I'm not saying I'm dying, but you don't have to be dealing with health problems in order to realize that life is precious, and really take the time that you have to live, to be alive.
Yeah, thank you. Jobi, how about you?
Well, the fact that you said age well, and although it's not about this, when I heard age well, I was also thinking about how both are interchanged, and both of us think about being elder orphans or childless elders, and what's going to happen to me when I get older, and that is a concern that comes in our minds. And with it being a patriarchal society, we're always going to be asked, do you have kids? Just recently, someone walking when I was on the porch the other morning, she came and talked to me at the fence and asked me, did I have children? And when I said no, her whole demeanor just changed into like pity. And the only thing I could think of was, girl, if you knew why, you really feel sorry for me. But I didn't even go into it. But that's just how society deems someone that says they don't have children, as if that means we don't have purpose. And that is very far from the truth. We have purpose. We can leave a legacy. There's so many things that we can leave a mark in life, regardless of having children or not. So hopefully that in the future it won't start with that, but we would have to be that change if it was to change.
Yeah, and thank you for your thoughts. Thank you, everyone, for your thoughts on this topic. If there is anything that you would like to plug or promote, things that you're working on, this is a great time to do it. We'll start with Denise and let us find out more about how people might be able to get in touch with you.
I'm the only Denise Felkin in this world, the mother Felkin. So Denise Felkin on Google, Instagram on Denise Felkin Photographer. So I'm quite easy to find online. I've got my book online. I've got prints online. I've got my new news online. So
Denise is online. We got it. Sharhonda, how about you?
I am also at S Ford on all social media platforms. I also have the podcast, That Infertility Chick. My book, Chasing Rainbows, is on Amazon, other places, and where books are sold. And you can also text HOPE, HOPE, to 833-766-0818. Again, that is text HOPE, HOPE, to 833-766-0818 to connect with me and to learn how to amplify your voice after suffering in silence.
Thank you, Sharhonda. And Christine.
Beautiful. Yeah. We've more recently launched the New Legacy Institute, where we are taking on policy in the workplace, public policy, and looking at elements of shifting social equity, including DEIB initiatives, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. You can find us at newlegacyinstitute.com, and all of our handles are on there. Also on every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, we do a live radio broadcast on voiceamerica.com.
Wonderful, wonderful. Everybody tune in. Liliana.
I am on lilivglobal.com. That's my website. And the Facebook group that I have for child-free women and also childless women, or child-free by circumstances, is called Redefining Child-Free and Single. We celebrate this. And everything is on my website. Excellent.
And Jobi.
Well, my website is tutum, TUTUM, global.com. And it's starting to revamp and even more so into wellness with, and coming soon in a few months, we'll have a directory of therapists and life coaches and counselors for childless and child-free women who needs counseling. There will be childless and child-free therapists available as well as those who aren't childless, but they'll have a training from us. And also Children Journal is the magazine and open to all childless and child-free writers. Fall issue is the belonging issue, our theme, and the winter is the joy issue. So I welcome you to submit articles and poems to the magazine. And you can follow me at on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Childless Women. So you can just put in the website and /Childless Women, and you can find me. So I look forward to hearing from you all.
All right. Well, thank you, ladies, so much for being here, for being candid with your thoughts. This has been the Child-Free and Childless Alliance panel. This conversation is far from over, but we will let you go for now. So again, thank you so much. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.